Missed an episode of your favorite podcast? Choose from over a decade of content in our archives, not just the latest episode. All free at GCNlive.com.
This is your call to action. Get prepared, America. Economy, survival, energy, disasters. This is USAPrepares.com. Informative radio, educational radio. Interact now by emailing instructor@USAPrepares.com or text at 434-390-7953. Class, please take your seats. Now, your instructor, Vincent Finelli.
Everyone all set? Cocked? Locked? Here we go. Your dial set correctly to USA Prepares. Delighted to be introducing to you your newest instructor. Margaret is in Spain. She has a doctorate. Okay. We lost Margaret? Okay. We just lost your newest instructor, Margaret in Spain. She'll be contacting us in just a couple minutes. In the meantime, we've got a special breaking news. I received a call this morning from Guineith Isaacs live in Australia, and we'll let her tell you what she learned. Guineith, welcome.
Hello, Vincent. How are you this morning?
Well, I'm kind of stunned based on the news that you called me with this morning. Would you tell us if you believe it's true, and how you learned about it and what it is, please?
Okay, I believe that this is true, okay? Alex Jones reported on his show in the second or third hour yesterday that Her Majesty, Queen Elizabeth II, had sacked the entire British Parliament, House of Commons. In other words, she fired them. And I believe the information is accurate because Alex Jones has sources very high up in the British bureaucracy. And Paul Joseph Watson as well has similar sources and some of his own sources as well. And that's my source of information for this is Alex Jones and his InfoWars news organisation. And she sacked the entire House of Commons, which is the British Parliament. That's their equivalent of the United States Congress. And she is entitled to do that. And it's at this present time, it's been her responsibility to do that. And I'm very glad that she did that because the British people have, by referendum, declared their wish to exit the European Union, and the British Parliament has been dragging their heels in passing the legislation that would make that happen, and so she's fired them all. And, they have a constitution in the United Kingdom, and what needs to happen now is there needs to be fresh elections to elect a new House of Commons. And if there's not, if they all decide on Monday that they're all going to show up for work, she is now perfectly entitled to send the household cavalry, which is her own personal private army, who are hugely loyal to her, to the Parliament at Westminster and blockade it and prevent the so-called elected representatives from getting in. And, so this is really huge news. And what prompted this was the George Soros organization sent out a press statement earlier on this week or last week, and they said, basically, we dare you to sack the Parliament because you know what happened to the last guy who did that. You know what we did to him. And what they were talking about, I think the word I used earlier on to you in the phone call, Vincent, was that the George Soros and his goons are the Rothschilds' junkyard dog. I think that's about the phrase I used, wasn't it?
That's about right. Yep.
Yeah. And
I just found Guineith, I just found a confirmation on the independent.co.uk website. Breaking news. Queen approves Boris Johnson request to suspend Parliament. Opponents of a no-deal Brexit have accused Boris Johnson of a coup against Parliament after it was announced that both the Commons and the Lords will be suspended for more than a month in the run-up to the date of the EU withdrawal. The Queen approved an order from the Prime Minister for Parliament to be, and I'm going to spell this word, Prorogued, from the second week in September.
Fine.
Yes.
Prorogue means fire.
Until the 14th of October. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So there you have
it. There you have it. That word prorogue is a very, very old word. It means fired. Okay? So she's fired them. It says suspended in the press report, but what they mean is fired, because that's what the word prorogue means. Okay? It means declared roguish, declared to be a rogue. Okay, that's what it literally means. And it's oh my gosh, I hardly even have words for this. The last time this happened was about 400 years ago, during the reign of Charles I, and it was actually, it didn't have anything to do with a Central European Parliament. But there were other issues at stake, and the Parliament and the King disagreed, and it came down to this type of face-off, and it ended with King Charles I being beheaded and Oliver Cromwell's parliamentary republic being established. Okay? This is what the Soros organization meant when they said, you know what happened the last time you did this, meaning that the royalty did this. That he was basically, that his organization was basically admitting that the Rothschilds of the day were responsible for the assassination of King Charles I and the descent of England into one of the most bloody, and by the way, bloody means full of blood, okay? It's not here in a swear word context. It means full of blood eras in English history, okay? Which we were talking about the other week, actually, funnily enough. And so if you go back about 2 or 3 broadcasts to where I was talking about the English Civil War, this is exactly what I was talking about, okay? This is really hugely dangerous, but if Her Majesty had not done this, what would have happened is that the Soros organization would certainly have sent their goons around and would certainly have executed her and probably other members of her family as well. And what you would have seen if she had not done this would have been a repeat of what happened to the Romanovs in 1917, which was basically that they put the Romanovs under house arrest for a few months, and then when they thought that everybody had forgotten about them, they took them down into a cellar and shot them against a wall. They opened fire on them and murdered them. And this is actually cousins of Her Majesty, and I'm sure that Her Majesty is well aware of what these people are capable of, and so she is now calling their bluff. She's going, I am going to sack Parliament. I have sacked them. They're gone. Okay, they stay until the 1 month or whatever, but it's so that they can't pass legislation in the meantime to block it. And if they meet anyway, and if they pass the legislation anyway, it's null and void. She won't sign it. And not only that, if she's got any sense in her head whatsoever, she will send a portion of her household cavalry to Westminster to blockade it and to stop the parliamentarians from getting in. Because for her, she has called their bluff. This is a very, very dangerous time for her. But in my humble opinion, she had no choice because they have forced her hand. Does that make sense, Vincent?
Yes. Guineith, for those in America, are you saying that this is the equivalent of a president firing Congress?
Yes, and the Senate.
Okay. And the Senate, yes.
Yeah.
Are you saying?
So she's also all the wards to go home.
Are you saying that this is equivalent of Parliament committing treason?
Yes. That's absolutely what
And
they've
what is
done.
the penalty? What is the penalty for treason in
death.
in England?
Death.
So, what I believe, if you connect the dots, I believe what I'm hearing is that the entire Parliament can be executed for treason.
They could. I don't think they will be, but they could be. Because
And if we go back to the original vote, there was a referendum in the United Kingdom to leave the European Union. It was held in June of 2016, and there was almost just under 52% of those voting supported leaving the European Union. And it hasn't happened yet, although it was voted on in 2016. So we're looking at a little over 3 years, and still it hasn't happened. This was the will of the people. Is that correct? To leave the European Union?
That's right.
Okay. So the Queen is saying the will of the people has not been done. Parliament, you guys have been obfuscating, delaying, and confusing and dragging your feet. You're fired. Is that right?
That's right.
And what about the possibility of a civil war? What would that be like in the United Kingdom / England?
Well, you would have a portion of the military that would take the side of Soros and his crew. There are actually quite a large number of British soldiers who have sold out to the Rothschilds and to Soros and his mob. But you also have a huge number of British soldiers who are mostly military veterans, some active service soldiers, and I would say all of the household cavalry are loyal to Her Majesty, and they will fight tooth and nail to defend the British people and to defend the Crown. And they are some of the most loyal soldiers on earth, some of the most brave and courageous soldiers on earth.
Hold that thought. Hold that thought, Guineith. We've got Margaret in Spain patiently holding. Margaret, we're going to go one more segment to the bottom of the hour with Guineith. We'll be right back. Guineith Isaacs is with us, and we're talking about some breaking news that Queen Elizabeth II has fired Parliament and sent them home. They've been sacked for not carrying out the will of the people, which is for England to leave the European Union. Guineith, what ramifications in your mind do you think this has for trading partners like the United States and other countries and the rest of Europe? What does this mean, do you think?
Well, I think that if the Queen, I think that she's an extremely intelligent woman, and I think she probably knows how to play chess, She's aware of her role in this chess game of being a queen, literally and figuratively. And I think that she will realise that the English people will need guns. Okay? And I think that if I were her, I would be going to the United States and I would be meeting with President Trump and I would be organising some firearms shipments from the United States to England. Whoever among the English people does not want to go under parliamentary rule, and especially military veterans, and especially, well, active duty soldiers have access to firearms anyway, and I would be saying that she would be having a meeting with certain senior military veterans who were loyal to her and setting up citizens' militias and arming them and basically telling them to go and defend their communities from people who would seek to harm the British way of life. Because this is British common law. Okay? That's where the Second Amendment came from. So I made a YouTube video. If anyone wants to go to my YouTube channel, by the way, I made a YouTube video about this afternoon. And this is extra information from what I said. But I think that the weapons trade between the United States and England could potentially be very lucrative, and especially if it receives royal sanction, as I think it should. Does that make sense, Vincent?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And you mentioned a guy by the name of George Soros. And he was born in 1930. He's 89 years old right now. He was born in Budapest, Hungary. He's worth about $8 billion in U.S. Federal Reserve notes. His citizenship is Hungary and the United States. He was married 3 times. His real name is not George Soros. His real name is Gorgi Schwartz. Gyorgy Schwartz, Schwartz. Just a bit of information for those who might be wondering who George Soros is. The internet thinks that he is a philanthropist and an American investor. So just a little bit of information. Yeah. And according to the internet, it says George Soros's family changed their name from the German, this is quote, in 1936, Soros's family changed their name from the German Jewish Schwartz to Soros as protective camouflage in increasingly anti-Semitic Hungary. That's what it says. So that's not my words. That's what the internet is saying about George Soros. So you've got to wonder why he is so influential around the world. And what does he want? My concern is that this firing of Parliament could bleed to other countries, and some more destabilization will continue. The people have had it all over. And what have they had it with? They've had it with the loss of freedoms. You can see it in Hong Kong. They're threatened with the loss of freedoms, and they are rioting and protesting. You can see it in cities in the United States. People are losing it. They're losing it because of medication. And please stay with us, Guineith. Class, Guineith Isaacs is with us live in Australia. She broke the news about the Queen Elizabeth II firing Parliament. Margaret in Spain is with us. Welcome, Margaret.
Hi there.
Hey, Margaret, I apologize. We've never done that before. I got a call this morning from Guineith Isaacs in Australia, and she told us that Queen Elizabeth fired Parliament, and that it's a very big deal. And so we've never interrupted a scheduled broadcast. So you're making news today for two reasons. One, you're our newest instructor to join USA Prepares, and we interrupted.
You gave me a royal introduction, I see.
Yes, we certainly did. And Guineith is with us as well. Guineith Isaacs in Australia. Margaret, do you sense any impact to you in Spain? Should this continue? Should Parliament continue to be sacked, or should there be a civil war breaking out in England?
Just let me say this. Guineith is a wealth of information, and I so appreciate her contributions. I'm going to get to your answer. I was just worried about even calling you today because of telephone and communication connections. But let me get to your answer. Of course it's going to affect us, but it's real difficult to say so because in Spain, we don't even have a president. Okay? So they haven't been able to get around to actually installing the so-called elected president for the last year and a half, I think it is. And the citizens say, well, why bother? We're doing just fine without one. Now, if we look at the history of Spain and Franco, we know about civil war here, and I listen to the stories, and they tell me what it's like. And in fact, some of the food information I'm going to talk about sometime has to do with living through times of war and times after war, and still making it. The actual effect, civil war in Spain, for the people, no. But you have military and you have allies, and there are agreements and there are connections between royal families. And historically, it's just, I can't predict it. All I know is that I live in a small place. I'm online, but I'm away from the big activity. And I've kind of learned to live without much anyway. And the people here, too, they know how to pick the fruit. The trees are full of fruit. The chestnuts are going to come. They harvest the meat. They smoke the hams. They grow the pigs. They don't do much pickling. Pickling seems not to be something they do. But they dry the fish. They can go forever without electricity, probably. The communication is the issue, but I don't know. There's where people here yell across the mountains. You can hear that kind of voice yelling, Oh, where they're coming from? Oh, they're coming from behind the mountain. So I really can't say. I don't know. I'm not trying to make light of it. I'm so glad I don't live in a metropolitan area. It's going to have impacts, but something has to happen. I'm removed. I'm a participant observer. I'm not in the fray. I've learned to live without, and I like it.
Very, very good points. Guineith, do you have any final comments before we get into Margaret's topic of the day, which is food storage and growing, preserving, and what's important? Do you have any final comments about Brexit?
Okay. I would just say that at the moment, people in Britain, especially Anglo-Saxons and Celts, need to have their heads on swivel. They need to pay attention to what really is going on around them. They need to be aware that the police are not their friend. As it is likely to go down, the police are likely to take the side of the socialists, because that's what's been happening so far with Julian Assange and Tommy Robinson. And a word of advice for Her Majesty, the likes of Julian Assange and Tommy Robinson are your best friends, And if I were you, Your Royal Majesty, I would be granting both Assange and Tommy Robinson full royal pardons as soon as possible. Because if you do that, you will gain the undying loyalty of all of the British people, who are the native indigenous peoples of Britain. Peoples plural, meaning the Scots, the Welsh, the Cornish, the English, the Northern English, and so on and so forth, and the Irish English as well, okay, and the Northern Irish as well. You will gain all of their loyalty and support if you grant Julian Assange and Tommy Robinson and every other high-profile and low-profile political prisoner in the UK a royal pardon. That's what you need to do. And you need to arm the British people, and you need to organise them into militias. Your Majesty, I pray that you take my advice. Thank you very much. Okay, you have a great weekend.
Guineith, thank you so much for calling in this morning, and thank you for this report. That was Guineith Isaacs.
Right. God bless you
thank
all.
You. That was Guineith. God bless you. Guineith Isaacs live in Australia. Special breaking news report. Margaret in Spain has a doctorate in speech communication and conversation analysis. She's a graduate of the University of Texas in Austin. Doc Ram is a polymath. Margaret is a poly-do. She speaks 3 languages. She was a professional cook. Her specialties are growing food, cooking, and feeding people, animals, and plants. Margaret, should the worst happen, and as you've said in an email to me, after a major disturbance, which could be a result of what's happening in England right now, should there be a disturbance that affects us, transportation, communications, electricity, we all know the drill. What do we do?
Well,
I'm talking about
two
food.
thoughts in mind. Pardon me?
I'm talking about food. What
Okay.
do we do for food?
Okay. Actually, 2 days ago, I was sitting here thinking about, okay, how am I going to introduce the topic? Because it's extremely complicated, and there are so many avenues. So all of a sudden, the helicopters start flying over. We here have a lot of forests. We're very close to the ocean, and there are a lot of lakes and rivers. So whenever there are mountain fires, they use these firefighting helicopters that carry these sort of buckets underneath. And they go back and forth, and so people are used to that. So we usually, summers are full of fires here. They love to burn. But lately this summer we haven't had very many. So anyway, I'm sitting here thinking, okay, how can I introduce? And then I get taken over by all of these helicopters flying right overhead, back and forth, the yellow ones, the red ones, which are the executives, flying over back and forth. It went on for about 45 minutes. The lights went out, the telephone was down, and I'm like, okay, fine. What's happening? Okay, how long are they going to keep flying over? Where's the fire? When are they going to put it out? Is it coming this way? Then I start reviewing what supplies do I have. I don't have electricity. Well, I had gas in the car, but so I started reviewing, and this is really what I want to do to introduce the topic to the class and to the audience. Because I think having a lifestyle that includes food storage for future usage is really a type of mindset. You have to be oriented to it. When I mention it to people, they kind of get bored and aren't interested. They don't have the time. They're not interested. They're just going to go to the store. They just don't even want to hear it. They're busy. And they don't see it as important. And so how do you go about changing that sort of mind? I was raised in hurricane country. We lived prepared. Everybody had an oil lamp. I'm talking about my great-grandparents. They had their pickled pig knuckles. They had their sauerkraut. They had their other foods put up in can. They had preserved, and I'll talk about the different ways we can store food. There was dried codfish. Things could happen at any time. We had our pirogues, which is the Cajun word for a Cajun type of canoe. Those are parked right next to the steps, and the houses were raised. We lived in floods. So, and the lights went out, and there was no air conditioning. So you just get through it, but you have your stores. That's where the word comes from. Grocery store. It's about the stores. You're supposed to have your supplies. And we've got, I'm so disheartened recently thinking about it, because as this happened the other day, I was going through my list of what do I have? Do I have enough water for how many days? What can I eat tonight? What about tomorrow? What about the dog and cats? When's it going to come on? And so, again, let me get back to the statement I said previously. To introduce it to the public, I think it would be a nice exercise for everyone, and they might think this is ridiculous, and maybe they can never do it. But maybe at least each individual should do this, but I'm thinking of families or living groups. They should one night a week get together, sit down, and this is going to be a topic. It's like we're going to do a little workshop, okay? Let's just imagine that now we don't have any communication, any electricity, no cold, and what are we going to eat? So now we have to take stock of what we have in the house. I think people need to become conscious. What do they have? I look in people's pantries or food cabinets, and there's nothing in there. A small can of lima beans, and some chili con carne. So it's a whole orientation, as I mentioned earlier. People here, and when I was young, we grew our food. We had the fruit and nut trees. You had the garden. When the fruit came ripe, you picked it and you put it up. You can't go make canned peaches in winter. It's not the time. So it's but we don't live in nature anymore. We don't know what season it is. So it's very complex. I'd like people to do an analysis of their own at-home behavior and of their food supplies and what they would do for a week with nothing else from outside.
Margaret, hold that thought. We're going into a break. Just a quick message, class. Hour number 2, in about 7 or 8 minutes, we'll be talking about the Laclede election. And we're going to do a 1-hour special on it. Right this moment, Dr. Margaret in Spain. She's a real lady, and she's talking about a most important topic. She made her debut just a few minutes ago, right here as a USA Prepares instructor, and she's talking about something very important, and she's been very kind and very polite in her presentation. She's mentioned that you should have a fire drill around your kitchen table, and you should talk about what it's like without electricity. And she also mentioned that other people who she's talked to don't seem to have the time or the interest in being prepared. And she's absolutely right. I've done that fire drill. I've asked our meetup group for years. Friday night, shut off the breakers in your electric panel, except for those necessary for life, like medical equipment. Turn off the water, no toilets, see what you like and what you don't like. And people would say, yep, we'll talk about it next week. No one has ever done it. No one. I'm not kidding. So, Margaret, you're absolutely right. People aren't interested. They don't have the time. But they've got time for Facebook, Snapchat, Instagram, texting, emails, surfing, the home shopping channel. They've got time for all that, but they don't have time to prepare. And they're not interested. But 3 hours from now, when they start getting hungry again, and if they find that there's nothing to eat, then they'll start getting interested. But it's too late at that point. Margaret, back to you. You're absolutely right.
Well, that's the thing. Once it happens, it's too late to prepare. You can start trying to figure out what are you going to do, but you're not going to be prepared. It's already happened. This is what I'm thinking. I'm almost 70. my parents determined what went on in our household. So did our grandparents and aunts and uncles. The adults made decisions, and they structured and organized life. We had a lot of free time and could ride horses and swim and fish and play and all of that, but there were household duties. When it was time, often my father would wake up on a Saturday and say, okay, everybody get up, get your bag, we're going camping for the weekend. And we'd all be in the car in 15 minutes. I suggest people taking their family out of the home, out into your acreage or out to the national forest or go to a camping ground for a night, or how about a weekend? No electricity. No bathrooms. No, figure it out. Sleep on the ground or on your blanket or whatever. Take them away from all of the distractions. You have to get out of they have to live it and feel it. And it's not a punishment. To me, it's fun. With the Girl Scouts, they would take us to the park and we'd sleep out for a night or two. How many kids today have ever roasted, I was going to say a marshmallow? Make a fire. Can you do that? Most people can't make a fire. So, but you just can't, let's say, okay, think about it, which people should begin by thinking about it, but also do it. Try it, test it. There should be camps for this. What's going on? And I don't like, cell phones. If you're around me, if I'm giving a class, we're not going to have any cell phones in the room. I'm sorry. And people have either fired me or left the class because they, needed their phone. Well, go be with your phone. I'm busy. So it's a mental orientation. We don't live the life. We haven't suffered. What's suffering? Falling off your bike and getting a little scratch? And for preservation, what are you going to do? What are you going to do for your, there are herbs, there are liquids, there are tree saps, there are tree barks, there are grasses that you can use to put on cuts and other things, or to cure cataracts, or to alleviate pain. But who can, when I go to the park, if the blackberries are ripe, I'm picking them and taking them home with me. The acorns I pick up and take them to plant somewhere else. It's all, to me, a pleasure, walking in the garden of bounty. But who's connected? They don't even see it. So how are we going to fix that? Well, I guess you have to experience it. You don't feel it in the movies. I haven't seen Hunger Games, but I can imagine it's a nightmare. I don't want to see it, neither on the film, neither in life. But live it, feel it, get thirsty. Go get lost in the woods. I hear your music.
Yeah, we're out of time, Margaret. And I have a request.
Go to your thing. I can't wait to hear about what happened.
Oh, you won't believe it. You will not believe it. In a few minutes, we're going to be talking about the Laclede Electric Co-Operative Board of Directors and how the election worked. You will not believe it. Margaret, I am so impressed. You came out of the gate swinging, and I mean that positively. You came out as a lady. Please send me an email. You've got to come back when we don't have breaking news where we can do another hour. You are I'm serious. You are absolutely delightful and so cogent and so succinct in what you've been saying.
Thank you.
It's delightful. Everyone all set, cocked, locked. Hour number 2 of USA Prepares. Jason is engineering at GCN. Thank you, Jason. Steve Elkins is with us. Welcome, Steve.
Hey, Benny, how you doing?
Well, I got to tell you, I am just grinning from ear to ear. We'll be announcing the results of the Laclede Electric Cooperative Annual Board of Directors meeting / carnival / circus and this is all my opinion. So I know the lawyer, I've seen him a couple years in a row, the Laclede Electric Cooperative attorney, and he's going to be listening intently. So I'm going to tell him that everything that I say is my opinion, because they're going to want to figure out. They're going to have another board of directors meeting, another corporate discussion with the lawyers, like how do we shut Finelli down? We've had it with them. So, Mr. Battaglia, as the attorney, this is all my opinion. Come get me if you want. We'll try it, and we'll expose the corruption, as I believe is evident in Laclede Electric Cooperative's operation. So here we go. Steve, let me ask you this. The video has been posted, the complete video of all of the board members seeking election or re-election, and Vin Finelli challenging the entire board, has been posted on the Ron Gibson channel on YouTube. Did you have a chance to see it? It just was posted.
Actually, I got the call late from your wife, and I just received, after she called, a call from my cousin down in Vero Beach. It looks like I'm going to be getting some visitors to come stay with me because he's going to evacuate, so I did not get to it, but I will post this this show here. I will go on and look at it and definitely make a commentary on it.
Okay, class, it was just posted. So here's what happened. About 5 years ago, a guy showed up at, this is the genesis of why. About 5 years ago, a guy shows up in a white pickup truck full of boxes in the pickup truck bed, and those were smart meters. And I said, he just showed up. No call, no announcing, just shows up, and he grabs one of these meters, and I said, what are you doing? He says, I'm replacing your meter. And I said, no, I'm happy with my old meter. I don't want that. And he said, you'll have to get out of my way or I will call the sheriff. So immediately, this guy from Laclede Electric Cooperative, or a contractor for Laclede, threatened me with arrest if I impeded his progress by installing a smart meter on my property. So I decided right then and there I wasn't happy and I was going to do something about it. So I called Laclede Electric Cooperative and I asked them about these smart meters. And I asked them who makes the decision. And I was told the board of directors makes the decision. And I asked how much it costs for these smart meters. And they said about $5 million. And I asked about how much it cost for each one, and I was told about a little over $150 complete. Now, so what is the cost of replacing the smart meters? Well, there's lots of costs. There's the cost to decide. There's all those meetings and all those hours and man hours and women hours, and then there's the cost for the meters. And then there's the cost for installing them. So there's lots of costs, and there's other costs, but those are the main costs. And so $5 million for about 27, 28, 29,000 meters. And I did some research, and the lifespan is about 10 years. So they spent the money on these new meters the last 10 years or so, and the old meters last 30 to 40 years. They took out perfectly good meters, the ones with the rotating dial. They're all perfectly good. And they destroyed them. They crushed them. They literally destroyed them. So there's no going back. Now, it's Laclede Electric Cooperative is not the only one that has done this. Others have done this too. So I decided to run. I thought, well, this is real easy. Because I was told on that same phone call that people can run for the board of directors if they're nominated. So who nominates them? Well, there are 3 districts. And in each of the 3 districts, there are 3 directors. So 3 directors, each serving a 3-year term. Every year there's an election for one of them. So there are 9 directors. And every year there's an election. And the election is usually of the incumbent running for re-election, or there's a guy or gal who's been nominated by the nominating committee to run against them. Now, who is the nominating committee? Well, that's a group of people who are selected by the board of directors. So the board of directors that is running for re-election picks a committee to find people to run against them. See any problem with this? Okay, so who do they pick? Well, one year they picked a gal who was a Walmart clerk. She didn't even show up for the election. She did not get on stage and make any presentation whatsoever. She just was AWOL. She got very few votes. I don't remember the number of votes, but she probably got just a few fewer votes than I got on Friday. I lost big, really, really big. I
think that girl, the Kmart girl, she put in some overtime. She couldn't get off of work, but
yeah, it was Walmart.
She just realized what a joke it was anyway.
Yeah, it was Walmart. And really, I got to tell you, if you get a chance, if you could have seen some of these guys get up there, I'm kind of making this up, but this is kind of what it's like. They get up to the podium, and they're told they have as much time as they need. And then they're told, well, they make it a few minutes. Well, make it 2 minutes. Make it 1 minute. All right. Well, this time I was told that if I spoke or anybody spoke for more than 2 minutes, the microphone would be cut off. They had an official timer. They had a guy who works for Laclede Electric, and he had a timer. He was using his cell phone as a timer. And you got 2 minutes, but they'd let you finish the sentence if you were mid-sentence. They had signs. He was sitting, there was a camera in front of the stage. The police were there. There were about 6 cops. And if you see the video on the Ron Gibson channel, you'll see when I'm on stage, you'll see the cop right in front of the stage. What you won't see is the cop to my right, ready to run up onto the stage if necessary. And they had cops at the exits and entrance. So there were a lot of cops there. And you'll see there were thousands of people. And this is the same location where we had the Get Prepared Expo. So what happened was I lost big. Everybody got way more votes than I did. And as a matter of fact, if you watch this, you'll see the most amazing thing. When the time is up, a sign goes up. There were 2 of them. And they were double-sided signs. So the back said time is up. The front said time is up. And I'm guessing they were 24 inches by 30 inches. Big signs. And there were 2 Laclede Electric employee guys ready to hold up the signs. So at 30 seconds to go, you had 2 minutes, at 30 seconds to go, the 30-second sign went up.
So Vincent, you said finish the sentence or finish the thought?
The sentence.
Oh, that's crazy. Well, you know what? You need to learn the art of the run-on sentence and keep going and going and going.
Well, they had the police there, and you will see the police at the end of my presentation. You will see the cop and the timer guy, the employee of Laclede Electric, discussing. It appears that they're discussing, okay, Finelli's off stage. You can go now. You don't have to worry about anything. You'll see that. Now, I'm imagining that that's what they're talking about, but you can see it. You can see it. And you'll see this gal sitting in the camera view, and she's going like, time's up, and she's just a member. She just buys electricity, or maybe she's just there for the free hot dogs. But you'll see her make the motion, and she's just, a guest, if you will. And she wants me off stage too. But you'll hear the clapping, and you'll hear them wanting me to get off stage. You'll also notice the attire of the people who are on stage. See if you think they are dressed for being on stage in front of thousands of people for their 2-minute appeal for this job. Steve, have you ever had 2 minutes in a job interview? You've been given, okay, we got, Steve, tell us what we need to know. You got 2 minutes. Have you ever had that happen to you? Just 2 minutes?
I actually did, and I laughed.
Wow.
I couldn't believe it. This rookie in an ICU at a hospital in actually it was in Utah. She said in 60 seconds, give me a list of adjectives that best describes you. And I looked at her, I said, are you serious? She goes, yeah, 60 seconds. And she pulled a stopwatch out. And I thought this was like a game show. It was so unprofessional. I mean, I have a very good resume. It speaks for itself. And you can ask me anything you want. My experience is this. But she actually treated it like the interview, like a game show, and gave me 60 seconds as many adjectives that best describes you. Only one time in my life I've ever seen that, and this was a very unprofessional hospital. This was a joke of an ICU, a joke of a manager, and I kind of laughed. I chuckled. I thought, you can't be serious. And I actually said, what is this, a game show? 60 seconds, most adjectives that best describe me. And then I gave a few, and then I just kind of said, you know what, those are the most important ones who best describe me. Those are the most weighted ones, and that's enough. And she goes, will you still have more time? I said, no, I'm not going to do any more. That's it. Those are good ones I gave you. This is ridiculous, asking 60 seconds of adjectives that best describe me.
Well, you'll see, when you see the video class, it's on the Ron Gibson channel on YouTube. You'll see the Laclede Electric Board of Directors versus Vincent Finelli. You will see ignorance, this is my opinion, in full bloom, fertilized. And you just won't believe this. But these guys were all given 2 minutes each. And the point and the reason is they don't want anybody to be able to delineate, explain what needs to be done, why it needs to be done, and how it can be done. The last time I was on stage, I started talking about my plan. And the minute I did that, they cut me off.
Right.
And now because I exceeded the time limit last time, I was told that that's why they had the 2 minute hard cutoff this time. And here's a very interesting thing. When I was on my way into the convention center with Mrs. Finelli and our two boys, one man stopped me and he said, I voted for you. I like what you had to say, but the people here don't understand it. That was the only person who came up to me from the audience to say, hey, good to see you. I saw you before. I'm looking forward to what you had to say. Or after my presentation, no one came up to me. Nobody even looked in my direction. It was like I had a disease. We'll be right back. Class, these are my opinions about the Laclede Electric Cooperative selection. They call it an election at the annual Board of Directors meeting. And to challenge the board, all you have to do is get 15 or more signatures on a petition from the membership. And when the membership is just people who pay their electric bill. So if you get people who are currently paid up on their electric bill, and you get them to sign your petition with their name, address, and phone number, and you get 15 or more of them, then you can challenge the board. And the interesting thing was the magazine that comes out once a month, sent out by Laclede Electric, had a biography of all the candidates, and they would submit their own biography. Well, I got a call from the CEO. He didn't like mine because he didn't like where I said that I was selling electricity back to Laclede for 2.1 cents per kilowatt hour. And he said, well, no, actually, I'm sending it to the supplier. So you're allowed 110 words. I had 110 words. But with his changes, it came out to a couple words over 110. So he violated his own rules. But that's okay, because rules are made to be broken, right? Well, let me share with you a couple of the things, four of the things that I ran on for the 4 years that I was on stage. 1 year, I ran on the platform of protecting the power grid. And should the grid go down with an EMP, I know of a way we could throw the switches and isolate our own grid and have those of us who generate solar power and wind power and hydro put our electricity back on the grid and give everybody a small amount. Okay, I was laughed at for that. Okay, I was laughed at because the amount that we get paid to provide electricity to Laclede Electric is 1/4 of what the customers are paying, actually less than a quarter. It's like a fifth. Or, if another way of looking at it, it's about half the cost of the electric company's generation payment per kilowatt. So I would get paid 2.1 cents or 2.3 cents per kilowatt, but Laclede pays 5.1 to the power generation company. So we could save a lot of money and lower everybody's bills, but I was laughed at for that. Then I wanted to Then I talked about protecting the grid and I pulled out of my pocket a 223, an AR-15 cartridge. And I said, these are about 20 cents. One of these shot at, and I'll even tell you because I don't care anymore, one of these shot at a transformer at a substation will drain the cooling oil out of the substation transformer, and the transformer will burn up. And there are no replacements. They're all individual. They're custom made. And you can't go to the transformer store or the transformer warehouse and get another one because they're unique. They're all one of a kind for that exact location. So I mentioned that, and I was laughed at by the husband of one of the board of directors members saying that was idiotic. That's his word, idiotic. Well, another time, I ran on lower electric bills, and I shook people's hands, and I said, hey, I'm Vin Finelli. I'm running for the board. I want to lower your electric bill. People said to me, I'm okay. I'm okay with my electric bill the way it is. I don't need it lowered. I don't want it lowered. I like it where it is. What do you say? What do you say to that guy? I have no idea, other than saying, yeah, you're out there with your spouse, and you're at the store, and you say, honey, look, it's on sale. Let's come back when it goes off sale. I mean, how do you answer someone who says something like that?
Well, and then, I would follow up with that one. Ask them, where do you shop for your groceries? Where do you shop? Do you shop at the Chinese warehouse there? And if they say, yeah, and you ask why, because I'm trying to save money. Well, then why don't you apply that thought to lowering your electric bill? Why are you okay with your electric bill? Wouldn't you want to lower it? I mean, don't you want to save money? It's beyond me that somebody would say, I'm happy with my electric bill. I wouldn't want to save money there. It's amazing.
It is amazing. And then this year I talked about smart meters and causing cancer, and how I wouldn't rest until we could opt out. Well, you cannot opt out right now. And I got cheered to get off stage. This is the micro example of the GDP in full regalia. They were there to eat. I told the attorney, I said, so what'd you guys eat tonight? And he didn't know what I was saying. I said, well, did you get the same thing we were offered? He said, well, we got a taco bar. I said, well, we got fish bait disguised as hot dogs. And he looked at me and I said, fish gills, fish eyes, mystery meat, looks like a hot dog, a cookie, potato chips, a soda, popcorn. That's what the members got. We'll be right back. Class Steve Elkins is with us, and you can hear him Sunday nights on republicbroadcasting.org, Sunday nights, 7 to 9 p.m. Central Time. So, class, I don't want you to think that what I'm saying is sour grapes. Absolutely not. I am relieved. See, when I was doing the meetups for 5 years every week, I spent a lot of time, 8 hours a week, preparing and being at the meetups and driving back and forth. And it cost me money to do it. Okay, and when the meetup group decided to throw Dr. Shealy out of the meetup group, and me too. And really, thank you very much. I really appreciate you saving me all that time. And I'm not. This is not sour grapes. I'm relieved that I don't have to do that anymore. It's not my problem. And the same is true with the 5 years that I spent trying to convince the Laclede Electric Cooperative members. We're not going to call them members. We're going to call them customers, because that's really all they are. They are told that they are owners of the corporation, but they're not, and I'm going to prove it to you. So it's not my problem. I don't have to worry about them anymore. We've got our own electric system, and we move to another location. We'll just take it with us, okay? So if you go to the Ron Gibson channel, Gibson, on YouTube, and thank you so much, Ron Gibson, for doing that. He did a great job making that happen. It was a massive file, but he posted the results or the presentations on his YouTube channel. Thank you, Ron Gibson, for doing that. Well, so I sent an email to the CEO of Laclede Electric Cooperative. I'm just going to refer to them as Laclede. And I said, so how much did it cost? This is quote. How much did it cost to install smart meters for LEC, parts and labor? Meters were $102 each, installation $13, total $115. Well, that's not what I was told before. I was told over $150. Next question, I emailed him. Who made the decision to implement the smart meters? Now listen very carefully. The answer is the Laclede Electric Board of Directors as recommended by management and staff. His answer, the Laclede Electric Board of Directors made the decision as recommended by management and staff. So what I'm telling you is what I've told you before. This board has no idea what it's doing. They have no idea. They're ignorant of the dangers of smart meters. And yet, they followed the recommendation of management and staff. That means the boss, the CEO, and his closest advisors or team. Okay, that's who made this happen. And during this presentation, I mentioned that smart meters cause cancer. Doctors are on the record saying it. And at the same meeting, 3 Missouri state representatives were there. They stood up and took their bows, because they were present at this meeting. Not one of those alleged representatives came up to me and said, Mr. Finelli, did I hear you correctly? Did you say smart meters cause cancer? Can you tell us more about this? Is that really true? Do they really cause cancer? How do you know? This is our finest in the corrupt state of Missouri. The alleged representatives, you ought to see these people. They look ridiculous. Their attire was ridiculous. It was not in keeping with an annual directors meeting when they would be part of representing the government corporation of Missouri. So, next question. Can a member opt out of smart meters in favor of a previous meter? Answer, no. Laclede does not make a provision for opting out. Next question. How many service disconnects have there been for non-payment, and how long after non-payment does this occur? Answer. Laclede averages 550 disconnects per month for non-payment, account transfers, and member requests. If you multiply that out, you'll get 6,600 a year. 27,000 or so members, customers. That's 24% disconnects a year. Next question. And these are all emails going back and forth, and I have a copy of all of them. Can you provide a copy of the salary compensation ranges for employees? Meaning secretary between, 20 and 23,000 or 20 and 28,000, whatever it is. Here's the title of the person. Here's the range of salary. Answer. Unable to provide this information. Another one. Do directors go on retreats? If so, where? Are spouses invited? Cost to LEC? Answer. Board of directors attend training and conferences. Directors are paid per diem plus reimbursement of modest expenses for meals and travel. Spouses may attend but do not qualify for reimbursement. Okay? Do any of the directors use net metering for their properties? Generate solar, wind, or hydropower? Answer. Unable to provide this information due to policy on member privacy. So the answer is none of the board has generated any power. These guys don't know how to do it, but they're on the board making decisions. Next question. Total compensation for board members. Answer. Medical insurance, 75% paid by Laclede. 24-hour accident, business, travel insurance, life insurance, dental insurance, 100% of that's paid by the cooperative. Total board compensation, $105,000. The president of the board gets $500 per meeting. That's a 3-hour meeting. They get free lunch. All other meetings that they go to, they get $312.50. For everybody else on the board, they only get $400 for 3 hours and $250 per meeting they go to. What is the cost of this annual meeting, this circus, this carnival, this with a band and prizes and gift certificates? $65,000 per year. Next question. Who owns Laclede Electric? Answer. Laclede Electric is owned by its members, totaling $28,585. It's owned by its members. Well, that's not true, because if it were true, they would answer the questions I asked, like the next question. Average Laclede Electric cooperative employee compensation. Unable to provide this information. Next question. Why were smart meters installed? Answer. Savings to the members from operating efficiencies, including automated meter readings and remote connects and disconnects. Faster and more accurate outage detection and response, voltage detection, and meter tampering detection. So what what they did was they installed smart meters that have a life expectancy of about 10 years, and the payback is about 10 years. So it looks like we're going to get new ones 10 years after the first ones were installed. But the original ones would last 30 to 40 years. All the board members should be fired, including the CEO and his vice presidents. But there's no way to do that because there is no place to call, no place to write to. They are self-regulating. There is no government department, division, or office or phone number that you can call because none exists in the state of Missouri regulating electric cooperatives. They are self-regulating. They can do whatever they want, raise electric rates however often they want. And they've done it as often as once per year in the past. Steve, your comments.
You know, if they're listening right now, and I hope they are, they're squirming in their pants right now because what you've said is absolutely true. You know, I was amazed when people fall for this tech stuff, that they try to convince you with the tech stuff that it's convenience. It's actually better for you, more convenient, more efficient, economical. Everything they say is what they pitch. It's a good sales pitch, but it's rarely true. And these smart meters had the same issue back in California. And to opt out there, it was $10 per month. You could opt out, but they do. They show up at your house. They put these things on your house, and there is also a problem. You know, like you said, with the cancer causing from the smart meters. That's a proven fact. That's a proven fact. They're telling now you can go online and look on YouTube, and they'll show you how to put a screen, some kind of block for the RF that comes off your smart meter. Actually, I had a guy on my show once talking about that, and deflected the radiation away from me, and fortunately it directed it to my next-door neighbor, which may have given him cancer, and the person I had on my show, which would be the last time I ever had him on my show, didn't seem to care too much about me giving my RF to my neighbor to give him cancer. So he had some great information, but I didn't care for that answer. Would never have him back on again. But no, you know, I listened to your speech, 2 minutes. You and I kind of went over it, and you thought about this and that, and I said about this, and sounds great. It was an excellent speech. It was well written. It was informative, to the point, and it blows me away that people just. I don't think you weren't talking over their heads. You put it in layman's terms. I mean, health. This is serious. Health, cancer. Okay, what don't you understand about cancer? And these people were easily bought off. And the soda pop and the popcorn and the cookies and all that stuff. It's amazing that people can be bought off so cheaply for a vote. And that's very, very disturbing, Vincent. And I saw the same thing at Walmart one day. The overhead, in the back, meet us in the back. You're going to get some freebies. And people would stand in line for free little nothings. And they were happy. You said it just right. The GDP, the general dumb population, and I commend you for trying. You're a third or fourth time now, and but you're trying to educate the masses of stupid, and I don't think you can fix stupid, Vincent. You can't fix stupid.
Well, you're absolutely right. And so here are some of the things that they gave away. They gave away some Walmart gift certificates. But the prizes that they gave away, you plugged all of those in, okay? 55-inch television, flat screen, cordless screwdriver. Now, and my son and I laughed because, you know, cordless screwdriver is the kind you turn with your wrist. Well, they gave away an electric cordless screwdriver, Instapots, iPad, space heater, LED work light, little green carpet cleaner, Google Home. They ought to be ashamed of themselves for that. An orbital sander, an electric mixer, an Xbox, and they've been cutting back on the gifts. They had a band. They had a band at the annual meeting. Really? This is an election, and they've turned it into a carnival, a circus. It's like, and anybody could go in. I mean, anybody in town could just pull up a seat, walk in, get hot dogs, fish bait, cookies, soda, popcorn. There's 27,000 members, depending on when you figure out, you know, when you count the number of members. They're really customers. Of those who could vote, of the 28,000 who could vote, about 1,000 voted. About 1,000. And you can vote for I could vote for a candidate in District 1, 2, and 3. I could vote for 3 people. I could. And do you know, I asked to see the vote. They would not let me see the vote. I was not allowed in the room. And they said to me, well, the attorney, Sean Battagler, said, no, it would look bad. The board feels it would look bad if the candidates were in the room. Look bad to who? The last time I asked, they made me sit against the wall and wouldn't let me move. I had to sit there. And they would, count out the votes allegedly. I don't know. So if they said to me, Mr. Finelli, do you approve, do you agree with these votes? My answer would be, why would you even ask me that? How could I possibly give you an opinion on the votes? Because you wouldn't let me look at them.
Right.
And the mail-in votes, couldn't see them. So our son was my designee to look, and they wouldn't let him see the write-in votes either. So did he see the votes? He heard the results, but did he actually get a chance to really look at them? I don't think so. Class, I'm going to say a word, and then I'm going to give you the definition. The word is patron, P-A-T-R-O-N. So what is a patron? Okay. Well, a patron, according to Merriam-Webster, the dictionary, is one who buys goods or uses the services offered by an establishment. So you're a customer. Okay. A patron is a customer. Well, during this meeting, and they always, at every one of these annual meetings of Laclede Electric Co-Operative, they talk about patron capital or patronage capital. Now, what is patronage capital? That's the difference between a cooperative's operating income and its operating expenses for a given year. What that really means is we're going to charge the customers X, and we spend less than X, and the difference is patronage capital. Now, another way of saying that is that's an overcharge, how much they have overcharged their customers. But they call them members. These are really customers because if I can't find out how much we're paying the CEO or how many lawsuits we're involved in and they tell me we're not going to tell you, that means I'm not an owner of the corporation. Because if I were, I could find out. Well,
that's right.
What they do is they take money, they overcharge, and then they tell the GDP at the meeting, hey, we're going to give you back $12. I got a check for $12, the Finelli family, $12. And these guys cheered. Why did they cheer? Because the cheering was led by the officers of the corporation. I saw it happen in real time. They were sitting in front of me, and we're going to return this patronage capital, and the officers and their associates and their spouses cheered, and then the rest of the GDP cheers as well. Wow, we're getting money back. Well, they've been overcharged.
Right.
And they can't even figure that out. So it's profit. Profit. Now, what do they do with this profit? They put in an account, and they go, you know what? We should get a new truck. We got the money. Let's go buy a new truck. Well, how much are they? Oh, I don't know, $300,000. Let's buy a new truck or two. Let's get some new vehicles. Let's get some new carpeting. Let's. And, well, we don't have to. We got the money. It's in the patronage account. Let's go spend it. That's what happens. It's an outrage. So in my world, it's not like that. I have to justify every expense, not because I have maybe a few dollars in the bank and, hey, Mrs. Finelli, why don't we go splurge? Let's get a new truck. We got the money. Let's do it. It doesn't work like that in my world, but in the world of electric cooperatives, it does. So free prizes, gifts, gift certificates, and hot dogs. That's what happens. The people who vote don't have a clue. Only a few % of the people who are customers actually vote, and they re-elect the same candidates year after year after year. So you'll see it. You'll see it. And the interesting fact is, I asked the CEO years ago, has anyone who ran as a member/customer petition candidate, has any one of them ever won? No. Not one in the history of Laclede Electric since the 1930s has anyone ever won who was not nominated by the nominating committee. I asked to talk to the nominating committee before they made their decision, and I was only able to talk to them after they made their decision who their candidates were. It was too late. They wouldn't tell me. They wouldn't give me the phone numbers of the nominating committee because of privacy. Can you imagine? And they told me that when I submitted my petition, which had to be in 45 days prior to the election, according to the bylaws, they told me my petition arrived too early. I said, no, it didn't. There's no mention. It just says 45 days before the annual meeting. They said, well, it got here too early. We'll have to talk about it with the board and the attorney. I'm telling you, in my opinion, it's a rigged system, and you cannot win. Logic does not prevail. You are working with people who value fish bait over logic. Steve?
Yeah, I commend you for trying. You certainly are a thorn in their side. They don't want people like you around. I mean, you're too informative. You're too knowledgeable. But you're right. The general dumb population, you can't save stupid people. You just flat out can't. These people are easily bought off by a bunch of trinkets and little food here and there, and it is a rigged system. It doesn't matter who votes. It matters who counts the votes. The crookedness was right there, shown to you, that you're not able to witness the count and verify the count. So you may have gotten more than 100 votes, Vincent. You may have got a lot more votes that you just don't know because the system is rigged against you.
Well, it really is. And here's another thing. So one of the biggest customers, if not the biggest customer, is the military, Fort Leonard Wood in Missouri. They are connected to Laclede Electric. Well, interesting thing about that is they had the color guard there in camo. These guys, 4 guys, show up. They march across stage, and they've got rifles. What kind of rifles? Well, I would say they look like M4s to me. That would be fully automatic weapons of war, or the replicas. I don't know if they were real or not, but these guys marched across the stage with M4 rifles. And, I guess that's to desensitize us. Was I allowed to have my .45? No. But the police had their weapons. And the military, I don't know, sure looked like they had rifles. Now, they may have been facsimiles, I don't know. To desensitize us, in my opinion. Steve Elkins, thanks so much for being with us. I know I did most of the talking, but there you have it.